Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. My name is Bree, and I am joined by the one and only, so lovely Mona Shroff. Mona, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always excited to talk to you, Bree.
Thank
So fun.
you. Happy 2024, Mona. Like, how has it started for you so far?
Well, happy 2024 to you too. So I think I kind of walked into 2024 a little bit more. I don't know if it's calm is the right word, but just a little bit more slowly than I have in the past. I feel like 2023 was like a really big and busy year for us and our family. And I was just kind of like, you know what? I don't really feel like making resolutions or intentions. I'm just going to take it as it comes this time. So, and I'm still kind of in that little bit of a low key mood. It's not like I don't want to work or anything. I'm happy to do it and I enjoy it, but a little bit more low key of an entrance this year, I think. It's kind of weird for me. I'm usually the like, oh my God, it's a brand new year. Let's do this. Let's do this. And this year I'm like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
Yeah, I love that you say that because I think that, especially, I don't know, I guess maybe with the rise of TikTok and it feels like there are more and more influencers. Like the thing is to have a mood board or a vision board and to set a word and to have goals. And I really like the approach of just being like, I'm going to ease into this year and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and I certainly applaud everybody for doing the mood board and the vision. I've done all of these, like set an intention, set a word, and I do love I love a new year, and I get a second one when we do Diwali in like fall time, and I always love it because I feel like it's such a great chance to sort of do like a rebirth and like reassess and all of that. But this New Year's Eve, I mean, I had a fabulous New Year's Eve with my family. I just was like, you know what? I'm just not there. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna ride a little bit. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, around Christmas, you posted, and I mean, you did have a busy year because okay, it's interesting because the first time you came on the podcast, we talked about how nobody gives you like really instructions of like when your babies leave home. And then your beautiful daughter got married last year, and you posted like a group photo around Christmas, and you all looked so stunning. You looked so beautiful. Um, how has that transition been? Like, okay, baby is out of the house, but like now our family has grown.
Yeah, that has been absolutely fantastic. I get you can't see me, but I get a little teary-eyed just thinking about it. Um the whole wedding planning that was like the whole year, but it was so wonderful to like be with my family while we were going through this. She is that all those TikToks that are out there. She and I are both like that first daughter, first granddaughter, first niece, first everything in the family. So of course all the resources are all about her and her getting married, and her husband is so lovely and his family is so sweet. And we just love having him. He's seamlessly melted into our family, so now I'm just like, well, now I have 3 kids, and it's just been really a very positive experience, and just one of those HEA moments, right? Like that we had that we
Yeah.
you know so it's been fantastic having like a new family. And I think at the end of it, like to any parents with older children who might be listening, I think they understand, like, you're a piece of my heart does live in San Diego, another piece lives in the Midwest somewhere, but as long as they're happy, you're okay. Like, you miss them, but she's so happy, and you
Oh.
can just see it and you could feel it like at their wedding, and it was just lovely, so yeah, so all good things. All good things.
Does it feel like the mother-daughter relationship, I mean, obviously you'll always see her as like little girl her,
Yeah.
but does it change any now that she's married?
I think it does. I think it changes not just because she's married, but I think it changes as they become adults and they sort of grow into their own and they live on their own and they have their own jobs and make their own money and all those kinds of things. My husband and I even when they were in college, my husband and I used to look at each other all the time and we're like, there's a gazillion books on how to like potty train some kids. There's a gazillion books on like sleep and babyish and all that. That I felt, like to parent adult children is a whole new concept for us.
Yeah.
We haven't done it before. And I think that's the other thing that I realize is, and it makes me think about my parents, right? They were parenting when they parented me. That was the first time they'd done that too, right? So I'm like, there's no like that. We talked about the guidebook before, but like parenting adult children is different, and it's about changing that dynamic a little bit, because you no longer really tell them what to do, but you're still here for them. I'm gonna be honest, I do give a little bit of unsolicited advice at times, but I
That's a
do.
mom thing. Like, I don't think
It's
it's a
something
mom thing.
that- And I will tell you, the way my mom and my mother-in-law both do it is what I try to emulate. They'll say it one time. They're like,
Mhm.
listen, as your mom, I feel I have to tell you X, Y, and Z. So here I'm telling you, do with it what you will, that information. And I think that's kind of the approach that I've taken, because then like no one nags me about it then. Like my mom gets her say, my mother-in-law gets her say, like as mothers. And so that's what I try to do for my children. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but here is my opinion. Here is what I think about X, Y, and Z situation. Do with it what you will. Like I've done my duty as your mother, and I've told you this in case you didn't realize this was what was happening. And I will tell you many times when my mom has said it to me, like, you think about it. Sometimes you listen, sometimes you do what you want anyway. And I think that's what happens with my children. And when they do what they want anyway, you have to learn how to just keep your mouth shut. It's a lot about
Yeah.
keeping your mouth shut. A lot.
Yeah. Well, you shared before we hit record that you turned the book we're here to talk about today, Their Accidental Honeymoon, in
Yeah.
back in like March of 2023.
Yes.
For anyone who hasn't read it yet, because it is newly released, gorgeous cover. How would you describe it to them?
So this is my it's a best friends to lovers fake engagement story. It's part of my Once Upon a Wedding series, and anyone who's read that series knows that the characters are connected, but the stories are standalone. So feel free to start at any point in time. Um, but this one is directly related to No Rings Attached, because Param is the groom that Sangeeta left behind when she ran. So when she ran and I did her story, I was like, wow, this is a really nice guy. Like he needs his own story. So this is his story. And it's definitely a best friends to lovers and a solid fake engagement in there.
So why did you choose the best friends to lovers for Parham's romance? Because it is so good. Ronnie is I loved Ronnie. Like she's this amazing doctor, so you know she has this big heart and she really loves her best friend. But I could really feel with her kind of that hesitation to go there. But yeah, what inspired the best friends to lovers? Like why did you want to go that route for him?
So I don't think I've done a best friends to lovers yet. But I also there's a couple of different reasons. One, it just occurred to me as I was writing Sangeeta's story that Param's best quote on like best woman at his wedding, which her was Ronnie, and that was his very best friend. And so then I was like, well, this is great. And then I went best friends to lovers. My husband and I are best friends to lovers. My daughter and her new husband are best friends to lovers. And I will tell you that when my best friend's lovers was playing out when I was like 19 or 20 years old, I had a great deal of hesitation because Devin was my best friend and we connected on so many levels. We weren't best friends like Perm and Ronnie from the age of 14. We met each other a little bit later in life and just really connected. And I was really afraid of not having that if something went wrong. And when Anjali's best friends to lovers came about, she also had a little bit of a panic. And she didn't know what to do with this information, right? Because I think it sort of, for her and for me, it wasn't like we realized we had these feelings. We all, one minute we don't have them, and then the next minute, all of a sudden, you're like kissing your best friend, and you're like, "What is going on?" Like, that's what happened to me, and I was like, "What is happening?" So the guys, both in both situation, both men seem to have a little bit more realization of how they felt to like talk about it, and both my daughter and I were like, "Yeah, we're not doing we're not doing this." So I felt like you write what you kind of know a little bit. So since Parm and Ronnie ended up being best friends, I was like, you know what? Let's give this a whirl. And Ronnie's I'm glad that you said that you could feel Ronnie's hesitation, because it literally comes from my life, from my daughter's life, from feeling that hesitation on the woman's side of things.
Yeah, I think with because I love Friends to Lovers, and when I was reading their romance, I was like, it's been a while since I feel like I've actually read one, and it just hit me that like I personally think it has to be one of the toughest tropes to do, and I think it stems from like people will ask, well, if they've been best friends, why didn't they just realize it a long time ago?
Hmm.
And I think what I don't know, I feel like I never really had that moment with this book. It was just like, all of a sudden, he needs his best friend, she's there, they have this, like, moment where, like, there's a beautiful kiss, and it was just like, Mona just gave this them, like, earth-shattering, changing moment that all of a sudden, Ronnie's like, "Huh, my best friend's pretty hot, he's a good kisser, and yeah, like, he's my best friend. Why haven't I ever thought of this?" For, like, both of them. So would you say it was tough, or was it an easier trope to write?
Um, I don't know that it was an easier trope to write. The hardest trope I feel to write for me, and I can't, and I'm trying it again, is enemies to lovers. Uh,
Mhm.
that was really hard. This one was a little bit easier, maybe because I felt like I had more to pull from.
'Cause it
And
was real life for you.
right, right. There was an element of like real life for us, and I feel like for that, like I had more to pull from in terms of the feelings and things. And then, it does mirror what was going on in my life. So them having to like pretend to be married or pretend to be getting married, um, that was a little bit easier to write because I was doing all of those things. I was going to Edison and shopping, and we were, trying like for my daughter. So we were getting all those things together. So those details were easier to put in because I was literally doing that at that moment in time. Um, but I it's not the hardest one for me to write. This one, all of my books, I hit a point where I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to make this happen? But I you want to make it believable, like you said. Like a lot of people with best friends to lovers, they're like, if they're such good friends, then how come they didn't know? And so that was really key for me to kind of be able to put that in. It's not that they didn't know, but it's that they had certain fears and certain things that they
Mhm.
wanted to do. And I think for anyone who has like a best friend like that, who's like their person, to take that risk to say, let's do something more, let's act on these feelings, it's a little bit risky, because if it doesn't go well, now you potentially have lost like a very, very a piece of your heart type of thing, so there's a lot at risk there. So I think that's what I was trying to portray, is that it's not why didn't we do this before? It's why, like, what's happening now in our lives? Who are we right now that we're willing to take this risk? That type of thing, because you're a different person at different parts in your life, right? Like, they could have kissed when they were 15. It would have meant something different than when they kissed when they were almost 30.
Yeah.
Like that, everyone's just different people in their different lives with your experiences and things. Now I'm rambling.
No,
Sorry.
you're fine. I mean, I have a podcast, I need rambling. I've been trying to ask, and you kind of already shared a lot because it was really happening in your life, you were helping plan this beautiful wedding, but, like, is there any other behind the scenes of, like, writing the book that you can share?
Oh, you mean like wedding wise?
Or just, like, while you were writing, like, "Oh, I got really hooked on listening to this song," or, "I watched this movie 10 times to keep me in the mood," like, just any tidbits.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, 100%. Every one of my books has a playlist, and Param and Ronnie, I did listen to quite a bit. Um, and I'm trying to remember the song right now that I listened to when I was like so hooked on them. But I honestly think for them, I really just dipped into my own life and whatever I knew about like Anjali and stuff, like in terms of those feelings, the sibling things. So, she has two sisters, he has two brothers. So those dynamics, I dipped into our family at that point. I don't have, like, my sisters are my husband's sisters. I have my brother is like my one real sibling, but and also his wife is like a sister to me. So, as we were like planning this wedding, we had sort of this whole sibling thing going on. My daughter and her brother and their cousins are basically siblings, so it's like she has 10 siblings. That's how close they are. So I tapped into those dynamics and those relationships and those conversations to make these dynamics with these siblings kind of similar. Um, I also think that a guy cooking for the woman he loves is just so cute. And
Oh
it's
my
so
gosh. Look, okay, speaking
romantic.
of cooking for her, because I highlighted, I was going to ask you like if you had a favorite scene. So one of my, and this is like just such a chill moment, but I highlighted and I wrote, I love this so much. So he had bought her some food because she was at work. She
Yeah.
practically attacked the food. She was so hungry. Easy there. Don't make me do the Heimlich. It's not my forte, Param joked. He quite often cooked for her when she worked hours like this. Sometimes it was the only time they had to check in with each other. And I was like, that was to me, I was like, okay, that is the like quintessential. They've been friends for a long time. They know each other so well. And I'm like, Ronnie, he's so
Mhm.
perfect for you. Like he knows you probably haven't eaten.
Yes. No, and that was the thing that I tried to make happen, with oh, here we go. I'm sorry. Can I backtrack for a second?
Yes, yes, yes.
I found the song that I listened to all the time. And it was Harry Styles' As It Was, because
Oh, I
was
love
gonna
that
be the
song.
same as it was, right? And that was one of the ones, and the other one was Be All Right. I mean, that's a breakup song, but I mean, I was just that kind of gave me some of the feels. But As It Was one of the I just played it over and over because that was the theme that I was going for when when they hit their black moment, or even when they kiss each other or whatever. It's never going to be the same as it was, but it doesn't mean it's bad.
That is
So
such an amazing song. I love that
was
song so
that was
much.
the song that I played over and over again during that time. And in terms of what the more recent question you were talking to me about him cooking for her and the dynamic, um, for him to know that she hasn't eaten, that's a level of closeness, right? Like usually only your mom knows if you've
Mhm.
eaten or not. And she doesn't have a mom, right? And her sisters, not that they don't love her, but they do different things. But Parm has been her friend for so long, and he cares about her, and that's how he shows his love, right? That's like his love language, is feeding her. Um and so to me, that's an indication of the fact that he has loved her for a very long time, whether or not he knew it, because this is what he does. He monitors like her shift, has she eaten, blah blah blah. um and then if you're going to ask me what my favorite scene to write, it was later in the book when they're not talking to each other, but he she comes to his house to try on some clothes, and his mother makes him feed her
Yes. Yes.
because because she finds out that she ate hospital food, and she literally looked at her son and she's like, this is how you treat your future wife? She has to take care of these children, and you're letting her eat junk out of a vending machine? What is the matter with you? Go make her a meal.
Yeah.
And he does, and she doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to eat it, and he just, but he does because that's what his mom is standing right there. Um, and to me, like that scene, like the juxtaposition of like the tension that they have between each other, and yet the love that is being shown by like making her fresh food right then and there, is what was one of my favorite things to get down on paper, to really like make sure I could hopefully like get the tension as well as the love in that same scene.
I think that one of my favorite I mean, I also love anything fake engagement, fake wedding, and I'm always interested in, like, the why. Why are they going to do this? And I think with your why, it also really highlighted, I think, one of the things that we love about special edition, the like emphasis on community. And I think if you're a fan of like special edition, for example, you read so many of them that you kind of are just so used to it, you don't really think about the thing. And as I was reading their romance, I was like, oh, this is a reminder of like why this is so special. And because their why is so much more, I think, bigger than them. And it shows what kind of people they are. And it really highlighted the importance of family and the importance of community. So, why did you want to go that route for their fake engagement? Like giving them that reason?
Like the reason I gave them to pretend to be married.
Yeah, I mean, he wants access to the trust, but it's not for a selfish reason.
No, no, it's to help his brother, right?
Mhm.
Um, well, one, it plays into the fact that she's a doctor. Um, the other, I just because in my life, I'm like, who would not want to do that for their sibling? What is there that you would not do to help your sibling, survive? So, I mean, we're not spoiling anything by saying he needed money for like a experimental surgery to survive, basically to live.
Mhm.
Um, I'm like, who wouldn't do that? Like, I think about my siblings and I'm like, there really isn't anything that I wouldn't do. So to pretend to have to be married to my best friend is really super easy to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
right? To get this money and pretend to do this just so that my brother would be able to get like a life-changing a lot or a life-saving surgery. It was almost a no-brainer. So they don't even really um need to think about it, and that's why I try to show sort of that bond of like their family, not only their individual families but how their families were bonded to each other, right?
Yes.
How she literally considered Param's younger brother to almost be to be like a brother of hers, right? um and how she, so a little bit of how she looked after him when they were little kids, and how he looked after his little brother when they were little kids. So it's like a lifetime thing, and I don't know, it seemed to make sense to me in terms of bringing family into it. And she does say at one point, she's like, when they question whether or not they should be doing this because there's money going into this wedding, and now their parents, their families are invested, and they're just like, we have to go through this. And at the end, they're like, once they find out the reason, who's really going to be mad at us, like that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And they were right about that, right? Like, when she said, when they say that, well, who's going to be mad at us if we're doing it to save someone's life? Like, no, they might not be thrilled, but they're not going to really be. It's not going to be like a horrible. They're not going to be super mad at us, right? We're just going to do this. Um, but at the same time, they couldn't be upfront about it because no one was going to actually allow it to happen, and they needed that belief. They needed, So then you have the person who's holding the trust, and you have to prove it to them. So the less people who know that you're faking, the better, because it's got to feel authentic within the storyline. So yeah.
We have to talk about this cover. Like, what did you turn in to the art department for us to get this gorgeous cover? And when you saw it, what did you think?
I love it. And you know what? My editor, Susan, had come back to me and she's like, we're going to do something a little tropical, which is a little different than some of my other covers and everything. And so she just had me like send her some pictures of what they looked like, as well, and like what they might be wearing and that kind of thing. Although she's very familiar with what they would be wearing nowadays after doing 5 covers already. So basically, I think I just sent them like pictures of what I thought my hero and heroine looked like. They're, pulled them from like the like Bollywood, or that kind of thing. And that was it. They do a great job. Susan is really um I heard you had her on a couple weeks ago and I listened to that. Susan has just always been really, really proactive and very, very supportive of like being very, very careful about what goes on my cover. And so that it's representative and yet still falls within that sort of category Harlequin like cover thing that people are looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's nailed them. All my covers are great. They're all beautiful. They all have beautiful people on them. They all represent the characters that I have inside. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the models are gorgeous. I
I don't.
love the
Yeah.
beautiful green from the trees, the sky, it's got, like, that little bit of pink, like, you can tell the sun's going down in the background. It is
Mm.
gorgeous. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous cover. I was like, "Mona, what did you tell them to do?" Because they nailed it.
They just do a good job now. I mean, they're so good now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I chatted with Susan, she told me something you have coming up, it sounds like a road trip or something, like, what is next from you?
Oh, yeah. So for the 75th, right, it's Harlequin's 75th anniversary this year. Um, I guess if she did talk about it. So it's called Road Trip Rivalry, and it is a professional rivals to lovers type of thing. So
Ooh, okay.
enemy-ish, but they're also in the same profession, but they're rivals. And it's a road trip. So the hero lives in Ireland. The heroine travels to Ireland for a big conference, and they end up having to road trip together with a grandmother
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
who is matchmaking them the whole time. And so yeah, so they drive and they go see these beautiful places and things happen and yeah. Mhm.
So is that what's next, or are you working on anything now?
I think that is next, along with I also have a Christmas novella that comes out around the same
Oh,
time. I honestly don't have my dates in front of me, and that's my first ever novella, and it's my first ever Christmas story. And that is a marriage in trouble, and they're snowed in
ooh,
um,
okay.
in like a little Christmas inn somewhere in Connecticut. So that's coming out at some point. I'm currently working on so those aren't part of the Once Upon a Time a Wedding series, even though they're special edition. I'm currently working on my next Once Upon a Wedding, and it is actually Rena's oldest sister, Karina. So she's a single mom.
Okay,
So
Karina.
yes.
Okay.
She's a chef, she's a single mom, and that one is actually like a rivals slash enemies to lovers, as well right now.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
so many you write such fun books, Mona. You write
Oh,
really, really fun books.
thank you.
Well, can you share with everyone where we can keep up with you online?
Of course. So I am most active on Instagram, and that's at Mona Shroff Author. Um, I am quote unquote on TikTok. It's at Mona Sees and Writes, but I'm not there as much as I should be. Mona Shroff Author on Facebook, and my website is Mona D. Shroff, monadshroff.com. But Instagram is really the best place to find me. I'll do most of my postings there. And
Okay.
ooh, I have a newsletter.
Okay, I'll have links to all
You
of
can
that
see
below.
it.
I feel like most of us have kind of given up on TikTok. I know I'm like, I'll get on there to watch, but I'm not posting
Yeah.
anything.
Yes. Yes.
And you
Yes.
have books to write, so you cannot be in all the places.
I mean, I admire the people who are, but the video thing just takes too long to
Yeah.
like edit and all that. I just started my newsletter a few months ago. I believe there's a newsletter sign up like in my bio. There's a link to it in my bio, like on Instagram or any of these places and stuff like that. So I am trying to. So when I do my newsletter, I try to put things in there that like first before it gets onto Instagram. So if you want to hear things first, or if you want to see special pictures, like I've been posting wedding pictures that I'm not necessarily posting online to encourage that newsletter. It's all there.
Okay. I personally have loved seeing you post photos of, like, the signings you've been going to. You were, like, the one author that I'm like, "Where is Mona going to next?"
Mm. I've got a bunch coming up next month too. February is gonna be busy, well, with Valentine's Day, but it always is. So I'm looking forward to being at a few libraries locally and, local Barnes& and Nobles, and then I'll also be at Coastal Magic for anybody who is going to Coastal Magic.
Okay. Well, I will have links to everything. As always, thank you so much. I can't wait for you to come back. You'll have more books. I have a podcast. We have to talk about them.
We do, we do. Thank you so much for having me, Bree. I love chatting with you.